he doesn't use any resources to validate the Constitution that are older than about 1796. So in other words, he's using information that's less than 10 years after the ratification of the Constitution. The reason why he is only using those older resources is because memories change, memories fade. People, if he was citing things about the Constitution from 50 years later, they're not going to be original sources. So he tries to only use original sources when we're talking about the Constitution. Back on the table, I noticed Roger bought a few copies of this. Who Killed the Constitution? Terrific book, eye-opening, well worth reading, but not required for the course. Oh, one more. Getting close. There we go.
Yeah, that was you.
Yeah, that's right.
Did I do it?
Somehow it's not.
Let's continue. If you bring a little jump drive with you, I can give you a copy of a scan of this original 18th century dictionary. Samuel Johnson's dictionary is kind of thought about or talked about as being one of the original modern dictionaries. It's fantastic. I have kind of an abridged copy of it. The original dictionary is about 2,200 pages. And yeah, you can pick up a mint version printed in 1755. I found that online. It's only 45,000. I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes, but they also had a mint version of the Federalist Papers, and they were $195,000. In my syllabus, I talk about some online resources. Certainly, this book is a really good book, but I urge you to also go online, look at other sources. If you're reading something about Article 5, it's always great to be able to look at other sources. This website is a gentleman that I've actually quoted in my book. He was kind enough to allow me to use some passages from his website. He's a BYU professor, and he has a really terrific website. Library of Congress, you can download the Federalist Papers. So here they are right here. When I was talking about the Federalist Papers, it's something that you're going to notice when you're reading the book is one of the references will be to the Federalist Papers. During the ratification of the Constitution, there were a number of states that were just very unsure about this new document. They had been living under the Articles of Confederation. Congress had decided that the Articles were just not strong enough. We needed a stronger central government. So what ended up happening is John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison started writing newspaper articles talking about different aspects of the Constitution. They were basically documents in support of this new Constitution, trying to urge the various states to ratify it. What's so great about these papers is it backs up the understanding of what the Constitution is talking about. So if you're looking at a section of the Constitution and you're unsure, you can actually go back to these Federalist Papers and kind of read the debate about what the meaning was behind that particular clause or section of the Constitution. So these are a real important tool for understanding. There are websites, I found this one, I don't know if it's the best website, but it had a real nice kind of interactive Constitution where you could bounce around. Again, you don't worry about writing all these down because I can't give you a syllabus list. This website, I got down in Phoenix. I had the opportunity of meeting the owner of the company, CEO. Really neat guy. He had some interesting products and books. He publishes, for example, a 5,000-Year Leap. He also publishes the series. There's one book called The Real George Washington, The Real Ben Franklin, The Real Thomas Jefferson. He gave me a number of materials, and one I thought was really pretty interesting, especially for tonight. This was printed in 1828. It was called Elementary Catechism on the Constitution of the United States. And it was printed specifically to hand out to the various schools for the children, so they could understand what the Constitution meant. So for example, let's see, one of their questions, number 64, do the senators ever sit as judges? So can you imagine like an elementary school student being able to answer that question today? Well, back in 1828, they wanted them to know these answers. So for example, that particular question says, yes, when any civil officer of the United States that is not an officer of the Army is guilty of a violation of his public duty, he is accused or charged by the House of Representatives and tried by the Senate. Such an accusation called an impeachment. So really neat. Really like that document.
Bob, we might need that book too.
Pardon? Yeah, it wasn't terribly expensive. His website is, it's the National Center for Constitutional Studies, and it's nccs.net, if you wanted to write that down. He has a lot of different products on his website. Again, here's our book, and go ahead, next slide. I want to talk a little bit about study habits that I use. I love marking up my books as far as highlighting. I don't like the ink highlighters, so I actually use like a little Prismacolor pencil highlighter to highlight various sections. Then I underline, like with a black pen, things that are even more prominent that I want to focus on, and I'll write notes in the margins. Of course, you're kind of destroying the book, but it's a great way for me to then be able to go back and be able to pick out the more pertinent sections of the book. As I mentioned, definitely look at other books, other resources online as well as offline. Make notes, copious notes if you can, either handwritten or electronically if you have a computer available. The last two are kind of things that I do for my own personal study. Every day I try to read 10 to 20 articles, and one of my favorite websites is called realclearpolitics.com. What's neat about this website is they try to have articles that kind of represent a left view, a center view, and a right view. So you kind of pick and choose. For example, you might read one on a topic that was written by the Wall Street Journal, and then another one on the same topic that was the New York Times. So you can kind of look at the various perspectives on any particular topic. What I'm then doing is I'm taking information that I'm reading online, reading in books, and I've created a journal that I've categorized, and again, this isn't something you have to do for the class, but it's something you might consider doing. Basically teaching myself what I believe in. I've categorized everything within this document. For example, there might be a section on politics, economics, even humor, unions, you name it. And then I can kind of cut and paste sections out of articles that I've been reading or information that I've found in books. I'm already up to about 90 pages in my document, 90 full type pages. So it's a really great way to organize your thoughts. So your reading assignment. What we're going to do is read approximately 50 or so pages for every other week. So in other words, 25 pages a week. We're meeting twice a month. So this is our first assignment. So next time we get together, we're going to go ahead and talk about these various sections of the book, various chapters. So roughly from page 7 to page 58, we'll do it for our next session. And then we're going to break down during each of the sessions, just taking roughly the next 50 pages. So the next session after that is going to be talking about the House and the Senate, the Vice President, grants of power, and the authority of Congress. Then the executive, the judicial branch, those are a little more in depth. Bill of Rights, Ninth and 10th Amendments, removal from office, impeachment, of course, ratification